Was there a person, like, growing up in particular, you know, whether it was an artist or, you know, you were mentioning some of your family members, that was, like, a big influence on you as an artist?
The first would have been my Aunt Marilyn. She had painted a portrait, or it was a pastel, like, I don't think it was charcoal pastel. It might have been oil pastel. But it was a portrait of my mother holding me as an infant in this rocking chair at my grandmother's house. And I remember it was so real. Mm-hmm. Like, she did such a... And I knew, and the fact that I knew it was my aunt that did it, and it was like, oh, wait, like, a real person in my life is an artist, then maybe I can be this artist. Because, like, you know, if there's, say you want to be an actor, but there's nobody in your life that's an actor, you know, but if you have somebody in your family that's doing this thing, it kind of makes it a little bit more real for you.
Mindset.
Right. And, you know, it's like, oh, like, if she could do it, like, that's what our family can do.
Yeah.
Then that means it's in me, I can do it. And I remember that just was something when I saw that, I was like, I want to be able to do that and paint like that. So that might have been, like, I think the first thing that kind of, like, encouraged me, and she was there to encourage me. My aunt would send things to my mother. My mother wouldn't be like, hey, don't draw on the wall. Here, just draw on this. Yes. You know, here's the stuff. Yes. She wouldn't take it away, you know. Yeah. And it was, you know, those were the first, I think, foundation parts that, you know, that set me off. I was kind of a troubled kid. I was on and off. I mean, through even, like, from first grade and stuff in kindergarten, I kind of, like, had some behavioral issues that just more or less had to do with my attention. I was, like, again, like, estranged from my father, living in a secluded area, my imagination just gone rampant. You put me in a little container to learn something, and it was just not my style. And, you know, so I was disruptive in class kind of thing, mm-hmm. you know. So when, you know, you're always looking at those mentors being like, you got to do better. You're not doing good enough. And then you got this art teacher who's like, wow, look at you. You're doing great. You know, here's a star. You know, that mattered. That was all the difference. I was like, well, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. I make art. I was always influenced by music as a child. Like, I remember my earliest memories singing every time Bruce Springsteen would come on the radio playing Born in the USA, I would run around like a mad child through the house, and I'd have to find a bandana because I saw the video where he's got the jean suit and the bandana and he's playing and he's got the microphone, so I'd have to find a bandana, get it, have my mom tie it because I couldn't tie, you know, we gotta get the bandana, and then I'd find something to prop up some fake microphone, and had a fake guitar, and I'd be singing the song, and of course you'd correct my grammar because I'd say Bond in the USA because I was in Cape Cod, so we had that, you know, that long R. Bond. She's like, it's born, Jeffrey. You know? So I mean, I always had good construction. You know? But so it was like little things, you know. So she knew that I was a little entertainer in the making, I guess, long ago.
Right. We gotta do a reenactment of that.
I probably should do that in one of my music videos. Like,
you running around trying to get someone to tie on your bandana.
Oh man!
So that was kind of where the music kicked off for you.
Yeah, getting my guitar, and like that was like when we had like the Columbia House. Like you could order, like you had to get the stamps, and you could like order CDs through the mail. Mm-hmm. Like it was a subscription company. So I started like. My mom encouraged me to like, oh, well, you can get a couple of CDs, and I didn't know who to get. Like, I'm at that, before puberty, you're really listening to what your parents listened to. So it was like Elvis and the Beatles and Bob Marley, and, you know, and then I started like, you know, getting stuff that my friends would have, you know, and then I got more into metal and rock. Honestly, weirdly enough, the double album by Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, was probably one of the most remarkable albums that like influenced me to make music. I was really into Nirvana, the whole grunge scene. Yeah. That was like me and my friends were all there, and that like getting piercings and tattoos. So I started fitting myself to that image and pursuing it more. You know, trying to start up little mock bands with my friends in high school, stuff like that. And then I'd say around the time Tool Lateralis hit, it was the next jumping point. Not only was the album so profound in driving me to think about music on a higher level, but the fact that it came with Alex Gray's art, that was, I think, the huge drop. Yeah. That was like, this is the art that I want to make.
Yeah.
But I knew at that point, I was so like blown. I was like, how? Like, how does one make art like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it probably wasn't until about 5 years ago, that I was working at Zoomies, and this company up here, Imaginary Foundation, was making clothing.
Imaginary Foundation.
Right, and this stuff, like, I could tell, like, and I was in college at the time taking graphic design, and I'm like, oh, this is simple. Like, this guy's just doing, like, Photoshop stuff that, I mean, and I knew what he was doing, and it's all layering and using brushes and stamps, and I was like, playing around with spray paint at the same time, and all of a sudden I, like, had this epiphany. I was like, whoa, I think I know how to make this imagery, just like he's doing it on graphic design, but with spray paint.
Mm-hmm.
Creating stencils and layers, and that kind of developed into where I am today now. So starting with this one here, this one is feminine versus masculine, and I say it in the sense of V, not VS. For VS is kind of like more like combative, where V is like showing the two different sides versus each other. It's more like in the legal sense. That's like they use that in the legal sense. So showing the aspects of the divide of the two, but when they come together, they can create this immaculate love outside and inside. Using the heart chakra right here, the Merkaba, it's the two tetrahedral stars. Masculine is upward, feminine is downward. Masculine is generally the triangle is one of the most masculine of, or the pyramid is the most masculine of shapes. The upward direction is masculine again, so downward is feminine. So why that is because men are left brain. We think logic, reason. It's all about strategy. So it's direct line, direct to the problem. It's just, solve problem, move to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So it's linear and angular. You look at a male's body, it's very angular and edgy. So the dragonfly coming in here is moving in one direction, so it's very linear. Fire is also an element of masculinity, fire and oxygen, or fire and air. So I have this very open air desert showing this dragonfly, which is the air, is in the air, and being a dragonfly, so fire. Mm-hmm. You have the sun, it's very hot, it's a desert, the triangle. So this is all the symbol of masculinity. So over here, femininity is represented by water and earth. Those are the two feminine elements. And the feminine mind works on creativity and emotion, and it moves in curves and flows. Mm. So I have the jellyfish and this aquatic scene going on here. I have the planetary earth, green being earth color. And I kind of I did this, these are in the chakra colors going around. So like the spirit, in a sense, I think I was trying to say that through sexual communication, we could survive our higher thought and creativity with love.
That is beautiful.
And then if you bring the two together and join this love, here we have this kundalini going up using the Fibonacci sequence of 1, 1, 2, 3 in the scale. Going into this black hole, I'm delivering, which also would be a DNA strip. So hers and his DNA in this kundalini dance, an upward double helix going into the new vessel. So it's like creating the next life. Like through love, life is born.
That is so beautiful, bro.
So here would be like the next stage. So we had the vessel. We had them going into this black hole. Well, the black hole is conception. Like this is the moment of giving that life. So here is the moment of conception of self, where you create yourself in the womb, but also through life, balancing your masculine and feminine attributes that were downloaded to us, and finding that balance of self within that, and becoming our own light, sparking our own thought and ability to become who we are in being, not so much in personality. This is more in the like the physical conception. The third installment to the series that I had going, which I used Eric Erickson's psychosocial development as the basic corner piece and theme for why this particular image is happening. At the age of 13, we start to develop our own personality. We kind of divide away from what our parents started bringing us up to be. So like I said earlier, about the conflict comes down to, am I gonna find who I am and become me that I'm gonna be for the rest of my life, or am I going to end up like having identity crisis later in my life?
Yep.
And because in a comparison, let's say like you got the kid who in high school still is being dressed by mom, is gonna do what mom and dad has decided they're gonna do, be it like you're gonna play trumpet, you're gonna go to med school, and you're gonna dress like this, and you go to church, you do what we do, and those people are gonna have a lot more struggle trying to actually find who they are, because they didn't get that opportunity to explore themselves. So of course then we all kind of went through this, I'm sure, in our own way, but you can look at other people around that you can recall in high school that one week, they were super jockey, and then the next week they had this emo thing going on, and then the next week they were changing through all these different identities. And a lot of us would think like, man, that person's gone through some crazy. Actually, that's super healthy because they're exercising and exploring. Right.
I like that.
So back into that, like now that that's kind of established, this is kind of that point. So where we went from the conception of physical self, this is the conception of mental self and your emotional self, where again, we now pull away from the masculine and feminine that were there before us, and we rise to our own center and start to emit our own being from within, and we find balance. Yep. So that's the three-part saga to that.
Well, it's so cool to hear the story, because this is like an art piece that, yeah, right when you see it, you're instantly like, wow. But to be able to hear the story behind it, like that just really tops it off for me. Like this should be in a museum somewhere with your voice just playing in the background, telling that story.
Yeah, I think that's one of the funnest parts about it too. When I go to the live forum and I'm able to like actually tell these stories to individuals as they look at it, and to see them open up and get excited when they realize what they're looking at. And I think that's the fun part of this whole experience, is being able to share that story.
Yeah. Well, it's so relevant with everybody, obviously, because it's a journey we're all going on, and this represents also the diversity of that journey. Like it's different for all of us, but it's all still that same journey and process. It's I
like to focus, it's very easy as an artist to elaborate upon things that are so self-centric, and in a sense, if I was to express that, it's hard for other people to be able to relate to it. It's like only, if you're so self-centric in your art, you're not going to be able to necessarily get the same response. People aren't going to all have that same reaction. They're not going to have the same, connection to that piece.
Yeah.
And where I try to make stuff that is more universal, and I don't mean that in the sense I'm doing space in my imagery, but I mean it in the sense that we all can relate we all have a relativity to what I'm saying here. It's not like it's just something I experience alone. It's something that we all go through. We all have this same shared experience.
It's art life.
And we do it in our own way.
Yeah.
But it's that connection. We're philosophers of our time. We're the scribes, in a way. I speak in hieroglyphic in a sense where I will write an entire novel, one page, not a single word, just sheer imagery. Because when I make these images, there is a story being told, be it from the alignment of certain objects to other objects, to the shapes I make, to the colors I use, to the imagery that's in there. It all has, componentry to tell a story. This was a automatic drawing exercise I did. I just painted the background with neon paint, but then this is all India ink. They use like these pen markers that I have. Some water dripped on it, so it's kind of leaking, but this was just the rough draft. What I do is I kind of let the mind's eye go. I just start doodling, but like not really necessarily thinking about what I'm doing. I might try to draw something out to bring out the detail once the like you make a couple marks and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I see an eye there, okay. But no, I'm not going to get, that's it. That's all I want to do with the eye. I don't want to get stuck there. I want to, as soon as I realize I'm making something very vivid, I got to move on to some other thing and just gets abstract. And it's just this really cool exercise. I watched a video of this guy talking through it as he was doing it, and he's like this comic book artist, and he brought up like Mobius and all these other like artists that I'm really into as a comic book enthusiast, which is another influence to my style, by the way. But it just kind of like made me think about like maybe I should exercise my mind more, and like you learn a lot more about like certain things, like the way you move a brush, and you'll get like a certain imagery out of it later, and you'll be like, wow, I never really thought about approaching it like that. But like you might do something by mistake, later that mistake becomes an intention. And so next time I go to do some piece, it's like I've practiced that. Oh, remember that thing? Like that would be a really cool like intentional effect to put right here, and I'll get that texture, I'll get that image that I'm trying to get.
Yep, I like that. It's that free flowing discovery. That's sort of like as hip hop artists when we freestyle.
Absolutely.
Like when I freestyle, it's coming from my soul. It's coming directly from my soul through my mind, and I'm just putting it out there right on the spot. And I'm able to discover things about my style that I never even knew. And then when I go in the booth and I actually go to write a song, I recall back on those flows and those moments that I had. I was skateboarding professionally for about 8 years. Really?
After I got out of the army. Yeah,
so just throw that.
That was another little hole.
Just toss that in there. I was skateboarding professionally.
Yeah, that was and that was also another huge influence into like art, because like skateboarding isn't just like you have the activity, but then you have the fashion, you have the imagery on the actual board, the graphic design. It's kind of what drove me to go to college to begin with, because I was like, well, what can I do to be better as I get older as a skater? Is like, well, marketing. Like, and that's what we're in the industry of. As a pro skater, yeah, you're an athlete, but really you're a marketer if you're really fucking good at it.
Yeah, making your own brands and marketing it,
because that is the next stage, you know. And so that's where I kind of dove into the whole like graphic imagery and getting into art and studying, deeper aspects of fine art. So with skating, like, again, with that whole practice and drilling, it's like you would videotape yourself, and then later you watch that videotape of yourself and cringe the whole time, because now you know what you want to fix. So again, it comes to that whole like automatic, like you got to go out there and just try. Sometimes you go to the skate park and you have this idea of what you're going to do, and then after like you get frustrated and you know what, I'm just going to go freeform around this park and I'm just going to skate. I'm just going to run circles, and all of a sudden I'll pull a line out of my ass, and I'm like, I just did the sickest thing ever. Yeah. Who saw it? Nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Nobody saw it. Nobody had the video camera out. Yeah, well, that was for me.
It's having that tenacity just to keep on driving to like achieve bettering your art, your artistry. Like, was there any like memorable in your skating career, like tournaments that you did, or any memorable moments that just to touch on, just for fun?
Um, Jeez, I mean, there's so many. Like, it's, if anything that I miss from skating is like the camaraderie, is the excitement. Like, it doesn't even have to be you landing that trick. It's the, you could sit there and watch your best friend trying to knock something out, and he goes big and he lands and it looked good, and it's like,
Yes.
I mean, it's like I was there, man.
Yes.
I was there. I might as well have been me on the board.
Yeah.
I felt it, and I think that's like, I try to bring that same energy to the aspect of collaborating with other artists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's the energy. It's the energy.
It's badass, man, because I can just tell, like, just from hearing your story, you've been just like pushing the limits your whole life. It sounds like
absolutely
just constantly pushing the limits and trying to. And it seems obviously you have dedication to everything you do to be able to reach those thresholds of success and everything. It's powerful, man.
To push through the punishment. Seriously, it's more of a series of pushing through the punishments. Is really, like, I tell people all the time, whether it's art, skateboarding, whatever it is you desire, whatever your passion is, never be afraid to invest in the consequences.
Yeah.
Invest in the risk. If you never take that chance, you're never going to know what it was like. You're going to always just hear about people telling you, and you just, wishing you had tried. I'm not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
I think that's the big key, is
it is.
Failure is my it's the biggest component of my passion. The failure is what drives me to not fail.
Yeah, no, I love that. One of my favorite quotes is, the person who's successful has failed more times than the person who quit.
Yeah.
And I really apply that to my life too.